Hello. Hi, Janan.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Living the dream.
In the dream. Welcome, everybody, to the Layover Live. I'm Kaylee, and this is Janan. So, we are talking about networking. We thought this would be a great episode to come out in December as we're getting into the new year, start thinking about 2026 goals. But we are recording this about 10 days before Halloween. So, we are in the midst of spooky season. And Janan, you shared something with me last week that was so cool and also so on brand because our guest today is from this state. So please
Yeah.
let us know what's going on.
Yes, I am so excited. I am also a spooky season lover. I have been listening to all things paranormal, trying to, watch all the movies. This is from Visit North Carolina, and it's their First in Fright campaign. So this is a landing page that will give you everything you need to fill your spooky season appetite. So we have all the things from paranormal places, scary stories, and local haunts. So they do have a podcast. Here they do their episode on real, true paranormal stories. I did start to give it a listen. I will update you guys once I finish. We also have just, their general map. They've got trip ideas, and then they have just some spooky events that you can see. So this is a perfect mix of, showing off your destination in a way that speaks to the season. So while we have haunted places and mysterious disappearances, we also do just have some normal travel call out as well, just, speaking to the season in a fun and unique way. So I really loved this. I definitely want to stay at one of these haunted hotels the next time I go to North Carolina. But Kaylee, I believe you had a paranormal experience to share with us. Is that true?
It is true. I have many. The one that I really want to experience is Mothman. I love Mothman. But so anyone in West Virginia want me to come out so I can meet Mothman, but that is not the story. Yes, so I have multiple paranormal experiences. I'm very also into paranormal things and spooky seasons. So this one though I wanted to share because I was just talking to my brother about it this weekend. And I think that even if you are a skeptic, that this will convince you that paranormal is real. This happened in probably 2014. My sister and her now husband were had just moved from Florida to Denver, and they lived in this one bedroom, really old apartment building that was right across the street from this park. And I cannot remember the name of the park, but there is history that back in the 1800s, that park was actually a graveyard. And somebody was paid money to go in and because the city wanted to build it up, make it into like a living area or, as more people are moving to Colorado. So they paid somebody to go and move the bodies and so that they could pave over or whatever they were going to do to the park or the graveyard. And the guy that they paid did not move the bodies. He did dig them up and robbed their graves and then left all of the bodies there.
Oh my gosh.
So obviously horrible to do. You don't mess with the dead, and obviously probably a lot of unrest and upset spirits there. But the city decided, well, we already spent the money on this guy. We're not paying somebody else. We're just gonna do whatever we want. So as far as I know, the bodies are still there. So my sister's apartment building was right there. It was a very old building. It gave me the creeps. I mean, her actual apartment was fine, but they had separate laundry in the basement, and she was trying to show me around the building, and I was like, I don't even want to go down there. It is so spooky and just gives me such a weird vibe. I was like, no. So she goes, my brother-in-law, her husband, can sleep on the couch. You can sleep in the bed with me in my room. So I say, okay. I we go to bed, and I do experience sleep paralysis semi often. Like if I fall asleep on my back, I always get sleep paralysis. But sometimes it's not a big deal. It's just if you don't know what sleep paralysis is, it's just that you feel like you're awake and you can like look around the room, but your body is frozen. You can't move. So it is a scary experience in general, but I know some people like see things when they have it. I don't always have that happen. Sometimes it's just
Mhm.
the feeling. Laying in the bed, I can't move. And standing over me here is
Oh no.
an old woman. She's tall. I can picture her perfectly in my head, even though this happened over 10 years ago. tall, wearing like a high neck, like old long dress, like looked very like 1800s-esque, hair up in a bun, just staring, and she looked mean, like evil. And
Mhm.
I was like, okay, got myself to wake up and like come out of it. Did not say anything to anybody because I have this happen to me sometimes. So I'm like, maybe it's just my brain. I was like already a little spooked by the basement. I don't say anything, but the rest of the time that I'm staying there, I'm like, Chris, you can sleep in your bed. I'm gonna sleep on the
Yeah.
couch. So I sleep on the couch the rest of the time. No, nothing else happens. Everything else is fine. I go home, jump like 4 years in the future. We're all home at my parents' house for Christmas, and my dad is not, he does not believe in ghosts, but he asks everybody else like if we believe in ghosts. And so I say yes, and my sister goes, "Yeah, I think that our first apartment in Denver was haunted." So I ask, "Why do you think that?" And she goes on to say that her husband, Chris, has had this experience multiple times when they lived there, where he would get sleep paralysis and there would
Oh
be
my
an
gosh.
old woman standing over the bed, explains the exact same thing that happened to me. And I'm sitting there and I let her finish and I'm like, "Do you remember how I wouldn't sleep in your bed for the rest of the time I visited?" And she's like, "Yeah, I thought you were mad at me." And I was like, "No, I had that exact same
Oh
experience
my
to the
gosh.
T. And we had never talked about it." And I'm like, "That is the craziest thing I've ever heard. And how can you explain that if it's not paranormal?" So if you're an unbeliever, that is a true story. Did happen to both me and my brother-in-law, and we will both recount it to you the exact same
Oh
way.
my gosh.
But terrifying.
Well, that is scary. Now I'm spooked. So if you guys have had any paranormal experiences, we love to learn about this stuff. So message us on LinkedIn, let us know, leave a comment, whatever, let us know. Also check out Visit North Carolina's First and Bright campaign. It's really awesome and can hopefully inspire some future campaigns for other, seasons. With that, are you ready to go talk to our guest? I'm really excited.
Yes, yes. So I know we've been teasing it, but today we're talking with Caleb Sullivan, who is currently at Paradise Advertising, but he's had a really well-rounded career in the industry, working at DMOs, working at vendors, and now at an agency. So very excited to speak with him today and get some tips and advice that we can take into 2026.
Perfect. Let's do it.
So, joining us today for our conversation all about networking and career growth and thinking about our 2026 goals, we have Caleb Sullivan from Paradise Advertising. Caleb, can you introduce yourself to our guests today?
Hello, everyone. My name is Caleb Sullivan. I work with Paradise Advertising and Marketing as our Vice President of Destination Development, and I'm just really stoked to be here today. I think that this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and it's a topic that hopefully I can help, kind of glean some insights for folks as they go into planning for their new year and their career trajectory.
And can you just give us what was a little fun introduction for you? So, what was your first career or job, not just career, ever that you've ever had?
I love it. So the first job where I actually was a W-2 employee and making money was in the quick service restaurant industry. So I worked for Zaxby's here in the small town that I live in. And then I graduated to go work at Cookout, if anyone in the Southeast is familiar
Oh,
with that. It is
cookout.
delicious. I highly recommend it. Now, it's funny, my little brother now works at the same Cookout store that I used to work at when I was his age. So I think it all starts, in travel and tourism with food and beverage. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how it all began. That's my ethos, if you will.
Yeah, I agree. My first job was working at Publix, which is a grocery store chain. If people are not from the South, the best grocery store chain, I will say.
Pub subs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can't beat them.
Mhm.
But yes, totally working in, customer service and that kind of intro to hospitality, I definitely think really goes hand in hand with the industry as a whole.
My first
Yeah.
job was a lifeguard. I
Okay.
did that for a summer and then I realized that it was so scary. So then I switched over to hospitality as well. And I worked at a little smoothie place called Fresh Healthy Cafe. I got a lot of great smoothie recipes that I still use today. And yeah, so lifeguarding wasn't for me, but switched very quickly. Well, cool. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your path into the tourism industry, how you figured out you wanted to be in the tourism industry. I know we all joke that kind of once you get into it, you never want to leave. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how you got started here today.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I like to start way, way back, actually, when I was a kid. So I grew up in Cherokee, North Carolina, which is on the North Carolina side of the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, and it's home to the Eastern Band of the Cherokee Indians. So I actually grew up there right next to my grandparents' motel. So at the time, they had a little motel called the Homestead Inn. And some of my first memories were like me, like people coming in asking like what the rates were, and me going back and getting my grandmama and being like, "Hey, can you come tell them?" And just kind of working the front. And like little did I know that that was gonna lay the foundation for the rest of my career. So in college, I always was trying to kind of go above and beyond. So I had an internship with a local community college. And then I wanted like a mentor, so I reached out to Nick Breedlove here at Discover Jackson County. He's the executive director to this day and was my first boss in my career. So shout out to Nick. He was an amazing boss. I literally was like, hey, I need a mentorship. And he's like, that's great, but I'd rather it be an internship, which turned into me taking the reins as our first, or I guess our second employee being the sales and marketing manager for the Jackson County TDA. I worked there for 4 years. We went through COVID together. It was just, it was a wild time to be in travel and tourism. But I tell you, like the amount of learning you do in that kind of environment where you're really trying to be scrappy, where you're really trying to be efficient with your marketing spend was truly great. I learned about the industry backward and forward. I learned how to grow destination marketing in a way that is sustainable for not only the residents but also for the visitors, and aligning expectations with those visitors when they joined us. And it was great. And I thought, this has been really cool. I might want to try something else. So I did a stint with Carvertise. If y'all are familiar, they turn like wrap rideshare cars into mobile billboards. So I went from a manager to a director level at the sales director level. And I worked there for just over 3 years. And it was a great time for me to really kind of go from being in the industry as an actual, DMO professional to servicing the industry through like a vendor or service provider lens. Fast forward to now I'm actually kind of, there's like the holy trinity, right? Of like DMO. There's like, you work at a DMO, you can work as like a service provider, and then you also can work on like an agency side. So that's where I am now as our VP of Destination Development, which is like one part strategy for DMOs and also one part business development for the agency.
So what was your major in college?
Yeah, my major in college was public relations. So
Okay.
I have a BS in public relations, or in communication with a focus in public relations, which really kind of lends itself well to a career in our industry, right? Like
Mhm.
yeah. Oh, okay, there was you too. So like, all right, you understand. It's like how to communicate is arguably the most important skill that one can have, right? And so that really helped me kind of have that confidence to go in and to tackle destination marketing.
So did you, and sorry, I'm kind of going off topic, or not
No,
topic,
sure.
but off of our script. But how did you know about, the DMO, and to go and reach out to the CEO in Jackson? Because I know, I have my degrees. I have a dual degree in marketing and then hospitality tourism management, but I didn't even really know what a DMO was. And then I ended up getting in at Visit Florida like soon after college because this is so random, but I was in a book club with somebody from my other job that I was working at just as an account
Yeah.
manager. And I met somebody at the book club who worked at Visit Florida. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't even know. I realized that was because I was still in Tallahassee. I went to Florida State. So I didn't even realize that was like still here or right here. And yeah, applied. And that's how I kind of got in. So I didn't really know about it, even though I had that tourism management degree. So how did you know what the industry was?
Kaylee, that's a great question. So, one of the things I'm actually working on now is helping young hospitality and tourism professionals understand about this
Mhm.
industry. I'm giving a presentation to a hospitality class tomorrow, actually, at Western Carolina University to kind of help peel back the layers a little bit and show them this wonderful industry that we all love. Because as many people in this industry know, like I didn't find this industry, it found me is like the common story, right? So for
Exactly.
me, I was talking to one of my professors. I was like, look, I kind of want to do like another internship just to get some more, experience under my belt. I also needed that mentorship for the 496 level class. And they kind of introduced me to Nick. And they were like, hey, this guy, like, we don't really know what he does, but we know he does it really well. So like reach out to him. And man, the amount I learned in that internship, and then just when my first 4 years of tourism really kind of opened the doors, if you will, to this industry. But you bring up a good point, right? Like I haven't seen at least like a destination marketing organization track in college, right? And one of the things in my presentation I'm going to ask tomorrow is like, how many of you guys know what a DMO is, right? And kind of like start that conversation because, yeah, it's not, this track of going from, working in a hotel or working in a restaurant to actually working in, administration on the DMO side, really servicing the community as a whole is kind of not seen by a lot of people. Like a lot of people don't understand that that's a track. So I did fall into it, but one of my goals is, and one of the things, I like about this podcast and doing stuff like this is helping other young professionals understand that this is an awesome career path that one can take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My first job out of college was a DMO, but I didn't know what it was at all. At the time, I was freelancing on my own, giving like website and social media advice to small businesses. So I would host workshops, and someone came to one of my workshops and was like, "Oh, this DMO is hiring." My friend saw the job application, and I went into the interview, no clue what a DMO was. And I ended up interviewing with Cheryl Kilday, who's the CEO of Destination North Myrtle Beach. She was like, you're doing exactly what a DMO does. But I think even when we talk to our friends and family today, I know we joke at conferences, no one knows what we do still. So I think it's, really important to get the word out. And I love what you're doing to kind of help those young professionals understand it a little more and see this as a career opportunity in the future. I'd love to know too, I know we talked about, your mentor that you had out of college, and, I was very lucky to work under Cheryl and kind of spark that creativity and, love for this industry. Who would you say is someone in your career that had been really influential to, sparking that love and want to grow in this industry?
So the way I like to structure this is actually by each role, because I think I've been very fortunate to have leaders to look up to in each role that I've had. So starting at the DMO, Nick Breedlove was quintessential to my understanding of the industry. He has given me just more advice than I ever thought I would, fully know. And he's the reason I have the confidence to step into a new service provider role, because I knew like I had learned so much from him that it was bittersweet, but he was just always he was a mentor to me first before he was even my boss. So he always kind of had that role in mind. Kind of moving through at Carvertise, I had a sales manager there. The VP of sales at the time, his name was Jim Fisher, and he taught me sales backward and forward. He's like an old school media sales guy. So, I kind of helped him understand the DMO side of the sale, which is something that the company is benefiting from to this day, even in my absence. But I worked with him. He taught me sales back and forward. And then Dayana Sanders, who ended up being like my division sales manager, she taught me the importance of like self-organization. She taught me the importance of like listening before speaking, kind of like these things that I still use now and that I'm trying to actually get better at as a vice president. And in my current role, one of the big reasons I took this role with Paradise is because I look up to our CMO and co-owner, Barbara Karasik, in such a high regard. I really felt like I found an agency whose brand and mission actually aligned with my personal brand and mission really well. And I wanted to learn as much as I could from her. I didn't understand this at the time, but they actually hired another gentleman by the name of Mason Moore, who's my SVP. And this guy is just a wealth of knowledge. I love picking his brain. He's like a keynote speaker with like a lot of things around like men's health. And I love just like absorbing as much from him as I can. And the reason I like to bring up these little nuggets along the way is because I think in any role that you have, it is what you make it. And I believe that you really can learn from good and bad, situations. I always say you can learn from mistakes, but they don't always have to be yours, right? So learn as much as you can when you're in each role and look at each role as like a learning opportunity. And that's why I have an answer for each of those roles.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And also just thinking about the different stages you're at in your career. Because I mean, my first boss, Amanda Clements at Visit Florida, again, I was a year maybe out of college at that point. I had had one other real job. But even just the things as simple as like, hey, write this email this way instead of the way you did it. It sounds just
Mhm.
more professional or more poised, and just kind of these small things that it's like to some people who have been in their careers for a long time, they're like, yeah, why don't you know how to write an email? But when you're 22 years old and like you've never really had to do that, that is a skill that you do need to develop. So having a mentor and a boss like that who can show you those skills when you're in that level is very important. And then as you progress in your career, and those are, just in your nature at that point, you need somebody to help you think like, okay, what's the next step? How do you get bigger? What do you need from this role you're in, and where do you want to go? And having leadership or a mentor, if you don't have that relationship with your direct boss, like, is very important depending on where you're at. So that makes sense. And if I had that question asked to me, I would have the same type of response where it's like it moves along where I'm at. And um it's really great that we do have people in the industry who love it as much as we do, because then they make great mentors and great bosses for us to learn from.
With that, I'd love to know, this is going to be two questions, so feel free to
Sure.
answer one, both. With that, what advice are you hoping to take that you've gotten into these workshops and sessions that you're teaching with these young professionals while you're teaching them about the DMO world? And I guess what's one piece of advice that really stuck with you as well?
I'll give you two. So one will
Sure.
be a piece of advice that I've kind of coined. The other is one that I just recently got from my SVP, which I thought was like spot on. So when considering a career broadly, DMO or otherwise, you really kind of need to focus on four things. Does it have a good salary? Does it have good benefits? Are there growth opportunities, whether internal or external, because there are opportunities on both sides? And do I enjoy the work, which arguably is the most important.
Mhm.
Within those four paradigms, are you guys familiar with like Stephen Covey or like Franklin Covey's like leadership, the seven habits, things like
Mhm.
that?
Yeah.
So he has the time management matrix, if you will. So you've got like, yeah, four quadrants, important and urgent, important and not urgent. You have non-important, important but urgent, and then non-important and not urgent. With those four considerations of the salary, benefits, growth opportunities, and enjoyable work, focus your actual tactical executions on those top two quadrants. And that's kind of how you can go about prioritizing what needs to be done. The reason I like having the salary, benefits, growth opportunity, enjoyable work is because that's kind of your paradigm. Like, you're trying to strive to have a career where you have those four considerations. When you are early in your career, you will not have likely all four of those boxes checked, and that's okay. Your goal is to work toward that.
Mhm.
But even with that, make sure you're focusing your time allocation on the top two quadrants of the time management matrix. That's kind of number one. That's something that, again, I'm learning from Mason as much as I can. And I'm just like, dude, that is like hitting the nail on the head. The second thing is, and this is something I'm kind of coining, and I'm trying to like spread the good word. I believe I'm really into like personal finance, and I'm really into wellness, and I'm really into career growth. Those are like the three things I'm passionate about. I believe in life there are really three ways to make money. You either are born into it / win it like a lottery. You are a W-2 employee, kind of like what we do, right? Like working for a company, or you're an entrepreneur. But one of the things we lose is no matter where you kind of fall in that scale, you have to think like an entrepreneur. So I consider myself a career entrepreneur. Although currently I'm not trying to create my own organization, I take risks like an entrepreneur. I have to consider opportunity costs like an entrepreneur, and I need to know, to a degree, I need to mitigate risks as much as possible before I make a career decision. So I think if we all start thinking, especially young professionals like us, we start thinking about our career in terms of building something, being an entrepreneur, that's where you can start, focusing on things like how to build your personal brand in a way that's appealing, when and how to take a new role. People say, it's not what you know, but who you know. That's complete, garbage, in my opinion. It's about who knows what you know. That's what's
Mhm.
important, right? So, your career won't happen to you. you need to happen to your career. And having an entrepreneurial mindset is the way to do that as a young professional.
You seem like an extrovert, and tell me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah.
I
Apparently I am. So yeah.
I'm outgoing, but I would definitely consider myself more of an introvert. So I am a little hesitant sometimes to take those risks. So what advice would you give to, other people that are kind of in a situation like me where I'm not so bold in just going and asking for what I want?
Sure. Learn as much as you can. So one of the best pieces of advice that Nick gave me that I wanted to make sure to hit on is listen 80% of the time and talk 20% of the time. I'm an extrovert and I wear my heart and my emotions on my sleeve. People know what I'm thinking, they know what I'm feeling. Like that's just who I am. But that's not to say that that's a skill I'm working toward, is actually listening more and talking less. As a young vice president, that's something I'm really focusing on. And that's a strength, not necessarily a weakness. From what I found, we'll go back to media sales. Some of the best media salespeople I saw were introverts, first and foremost. They listened more. They knew what the client or customer needed before they spoke, because they wanted to have that understanding. And they chose their words a lot more wisely. Whereas I am just shooting from the hip, right? Like I'm just always having a good time. I'm always talking. So to answer your question, harness that strength. Like that is a strength. So don't view it as a weakness. And also to calculate risk. There is, one of the things I learned early on is benefits cost money. So, whenever you're thinking about a career shift for monetary gain, whether it's benefit or salary, you can calculate those and take your time and think through, your decision. Know who you need to talk to, who the ultimate decision maker is in the hiring process. If it's just your buddy who's like a low-level junior, account executive or whatever, that's one thing. But if you have an in with, the hiring manager or, the VP of sales or whatever role you're looking to go into, validate your ins. From what I've seen is they can get so caught up and concerned about people like me who are out here flapping our traps all day, and they just seem like, oh no, like I'll never be like that. You don't have to. Be yourself and be authentic in every situation. I mean, that for me has gotten me far. When I started in this industry, I didn't know what to do, guys. Like I had no idea. Like I wore a bow tie everywhere. Like I wore like these super colorful like outfits, because I was like trying to stand out. I didn't know what to do. And then now I'm at this point in my career to where I'm like kind of figuring out who I am as a person and as a professional. And so I'm like, okay, I'm leveraging that a little more. Be yourself and be authentic. That's important. And the rest will kind of come.
So that kind of bodes well into the next part of the conversation that we wanted to talk about, and is, outside of people in the beginning of their careers, maybe somebody's in the middle of their career and they kind of feel stuck or plateaued. They don't know what the next step is. How kind of advice would you give to somebody who kind of feels stagnant in their current role?
Absolutely. So on average, you will make 15 to 20% more salary moving horizontally than vertically. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean you need to just completely jump ship. Because remember, do you enjoy the work? Is it good salary? Is it good benefits? Like those are the things you need to kind of consider. So are there ways that you can internally upskill, right, that are going to be happy? Can you get a CDME? Can you get a TMP or a PDM accreditation or something through CVent? Will that satisfy you? Are there opportunities to grow monetarily, take on more duties and responsibilities? Is that a conversation worth having with your supervisor? One of the things a lot of times people young in their career do, and I struggle with this too, is like, this is going to sound harsh, but like thinking we're worth more than we are. Like we have a lot to prove and we have a lot to learn. So think of it like that. How much can I learn to be more valuable to this organization moving forward? So don't just go to your boss and ask for more money, and don't just go to your boss and say, I want a CDME. It's like, okay, well, why? Always kind of dive into why you want to do something and how it's going to benefit yourself, but also the organization. If you are stagnant and you don't have, it doesn't seem like there's opportunity to grow, it doesn't seem like there's opportunity to upskill internally, then it might be worth looking outside of your current organization. But the one piece of advice I will give you is do not leave the DMO space. Whether you go to be a vendor, I call them service providers or partners, whether you go to be working with, like yourselves with Granicus, whether you go and work with an agency, or go and work for another DMO, I would really strongly encourage you to stay in the industry because other industries just aren't as fun. I will say that. I got a good buddy of mine. I co-host a little podcast with him, and he's in supply chain management. And I'll tell you, it's not as fun as tourism. So yeah, I'd stay in the industry.
I guess going along with that, what is one risk that you took in your career that really paid off today to where you're
Yeah.
at today?
I love that question. And for me, it was double-sided risk. One side was I went and worked for Carver Ties, who, I had never done really sales before. I'd only done destination sales and public relations, which is a little different. Like you're pitching a story, you're pitching an ethos, a vibe, but you're not really selling directly. So I took a risk to join Carver Ties, and at the same time, they took a risk on me because I was their first industry hire ever. And I believe to this day, I was still like their one industry hire that they had. That risk paid off both monetarily and professionally. What was really cool about that risk was I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about what I call the friendship economy in tourism of like, how do you provide value to destinations? And that all starts with a friendship first, and then kind of the rest will come. I don't believe in hard selling. I don't believe in claiming to have the magic bullet, no matter, what your service is. But yeah, that was a big risk for them. And it was a big risk for me. And it paid off pretty well.
I love that. I love the thought of kind of that friendship, what'd you call it? Friendship value?
Economy.
Yeah, a friendship economy. And I know earlier you touched on, it's not who you know, but it's what they know about you. I think to Kaylee's point, when I first got into this industry, I was so nervous at events or, conferences or anything because I was so new. I didn't know anyone, barely knew what a DMO was. So it's kind of hard to, network when you're still so fresh and so new. As we, open our, resources, well, this person knows this person. So it's easier to kind of get past that icebreakers. But what is your advice for networking and kind of making new connections in the industry? Bonus points if you have any unconventional ones.
I love it. Yeah. So for me, it all starts with understanding why you're at a conference to begin with. I've spoken about this on previous podcasts, but understand like everyone there is taking time away from their families and their work to network. Like they're there together. It's like a big get together. So first of all, kind of have the mindset of like, this is why I'm here. I'm not being annoying when I go up to talk to people. I'm not, getting in their way. I'm just here to do what we're all here to do. So kind of have that mindset and paradigm going into it. That's kind of help number one. Tactically, which I think is more important, which is kind of what you're asking, is how do I go about networking when A, there's already a group of people talking, or B, I don't know anybody. I'm about to experience this. I'm going to the Colorado Governor's Conference on tourism at the time of recording this this week. And I don't know a lot of people in Colorado. So we're going to see if it works out. But what I like to do is I like to go up to industry. This maybe a little bit, I'll take it a step back. I like to go up to people who've been in the industry for longer, who you can tell are just genuinely attached to the industry. So I think of like a Kayleen Griffith at Visit Bentonville. Like she is queen of hospitality, like doesn't know a stranger, will introduce you to anyone you want to know. So I try to kind of spot out people from afar who just kind of wear that on their sleeve, right? The other thing I like to do on the opposite end of that is connect with people who, are in similar age to me. People who like, I'm really into watches. So like if someone has like a cool watch on or something, I'm like, oh yeah, I love that watch. Little things like that, like those little connectors that you can kind of key in on. But yeah, I think going into the mindset of like, hey, this is why we're all here is really helpful. And then tactically when you're there, you can kind of find different little things. To answer your bonus question, this isn't something I used to do, but I had this assassin salesperson at Carver Ties. One of our bigger verticals was legal, like ambulance chaser, lawyer types. And he would go to a conference and he would just point at people and say, marketing, like literally just like point at him, be like, are you in marketing? And like, that's how he would get like the conversation going. It worked. He did really, really well at Carver Ties during his time there. And I thought that was super unconventional and fun.
I also really liked what you said about, everyone's here for a reason. You're not going to be annoying because I think even if you're well into your career, sometimes it's easy to get that mindset of, oh, I don't want to bug this person or
Yep.
um, I don't want to come off a certain way or salesy. I really appreciated that.
Everyone is a little nervous.
Yeah.
Everyone. I don't care. Like, I don't care if they've got, the Toomey bag and their nose is up in the air and they're rocking their Ray-Bans. Like, everyone is nervous going into this thing. There, DI this year, there were 2,300 people or something insane. Like, guys, it's a lot. So, just cool it a little bit. If you drink, get you a drink. If you don't, get you a Coke or something. But just, it's okay. We're all a little nervous.
Kaylee, I'd love to hear if you have any unconventional networking advice.
I usually just find somebody that I do at least know a little bit, like even if I'm just connected with them on LinkedIn, or maybe I do have a lot of good friends in the industry because I've been in it for over 8 years at this point and worked at a lot of places, but that at least helps me have like a little security blanket at some level because
Yep.
I am a little more socially anxious. And then from there, then I get to meet people that they know, where it's like if I'm hanging out with my friend Maddie, who works at Adara, and we're at Florida Governor's Conference, and she knows somebody at, different DMO or different agency that I just haven't met yet because I don't work with, and I'm just standing with her, I get that introduction and can then have that person to then go hang out with them the next event and then get to meet more people. So just find a little connector. If you know absolutely nobody, I would suggest doing some research ahead of time and maybe finding some people that you might have some connection with, connecting with them on LinkedIn, letting them know you're going to be there too. And then you already have a little in there too.
Mine is going to be fashion. So
Hey.
I stumbled upon this a little unconventionally. I got gifted these pair of like work shoes for my first ever conference I was going to. I was going to alone. It was the South Carolina Governor's Conference, and they were so ugly. They were so ugly. And if I find a picture, I will find a way to include them. But they were like the little eye, but in gemstones. So they were so gaudy. Your eye went straight to them. And so many people talked to me because of my shoes at this conference and were like, oh my gosh, I've never seen shoes like this. So then from there, I was like, well, one, I feel confident when I look good or I have a statement piece. I love putting together outfits. And then I found that it's a way to easily break the ice because so many people would come up and be like, I like your jacket, I like your shoes, or I do that to other people as well. I'll go up to a random stranger and be like, oh my gosh, I really like this jacket. I've been looking for one. Can you tell me where you got it? So it might sound a little shallow, but when you are wearing something you feel confident in, you're more likely to go up to people and feel confident enough to break the ice. And then also it's a fun way to have a little icebreaker, packed on your body, ready to go.
Love that.
And
Yep.
everybody loves compliments. I mean, and I just in general, and I live by, if you can say something nice to somebody, even outside of networking, this is just like a life rule that I live by. If I'm walking down the street and I like something that somebody's doing, I just shout it out at them.
Yep.
Like, I know I just said like I'm socially anxious, but like, I don't know. In that situation, I guess I'm not, because it always just brightens someone's day, and that makes you feel good. It makes them feel good.
Yeah.
And just makes everybody better people. So,
And I will also say
like
too on
advice.
that, like one of the pieces of advice I'm giving these students tomorrow is from my internship. My first internship, the piece of advice I got was be nice. That was like the best advice I got. I was like, yeah, it's so easy to do and people love it. So yeah, be nice.
So we do want to ask you about some of your goals for yourself in 2026, but before that, I want to
Yeah.
ask, what's something that you've accomplished in 2025 that you feel like was one of your goals you've set for this year that you've already worked toward?
Yeah, for me, in my previous role, I actually became our top salesperson, and at the time I had grown Carvertise to be it was the most profitable vertical in tourism, and it was like the most sales in that year. So that was cool. That was like a big check off for me. I was like, I've done something cool. Like I sold things the way I wanted to sell them, and I didn't hard sell, and that was cool. Um, so that was kind of it for 2025. Like really putting a pin in, it happened early. For me in 2026, I'm still flushing them out, but one of the things I'm working on is finding the balance between who I am and just kind of being like quirky, dorky and fun and Southern, but then also having a professional vice president acumen, personification, really leveraging like, hey, I'm fun and quirky, but I also like I know what I'm talking about, right? And like being able to get that across. I like many of us and probably listening to this struggle with imposter syndrome. So understanding like I'm at this table because I asked for a seat and I earned this spot. And how do I kind of couple like my personal brand and like just being a goofball and loving life with like also being a professional and doing big things for an agency that I truly, truly believe in.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel that too, where it's like, how do I, personal brand, especially being like, I mean, I feel like I look younger than I am. So people like assume I'm like really young and I'm in my 30s. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
I worked really hard to be here. And, I try to, yeah, finding ways to like present myself in that way, but then also like being true to myself because I don't feel like I'm in my 30s. I'm 25
Yeah.
forever in my heart.
There you go.
Which is fine. But yeah, I love that. And I would say one thing for me that I think I've worked harder at this year is just being a better advocate for myself. We've had some changes in like our leadership teams and things like that this past year. And in the moment, I was like, oh no, like this is horrible. Like I don't have my people here anymore. And what am I going to do? And honestly, I feel like things are going really well for me. And I feel like because I've been able to articulate, the value that I bring and why we deserve to grow our division or whatever it is. And yeah, that's something that I think has gone really well, especially in the past like quarter, honestly, not even just the whole year.
Awesome.
Jenna and I work on the same team, so we do everything together. So she
and
probably
podcast together, which is great. Yeah.
Exactly.
That was one of our concerns with all this upcoming change was, we've worked so hard to build this and how do we continue to, show the value. And similar to Kaylee, I am very young in my career. And I know when people, find out my age, sometimes there's a lot of questions that follow. And so I also think, sometimes being a woman in the space we're in with the title we're in and kind of where we're at can be, a little bit intimidating as well. So just kind of continuing to prove our worth and show why we're here and why we're doing what we're doing is kind of the same. I think we're kind of all on the same page for 2026. Stick to our personal brand, prove our value, and still enjoy what we do. So
I think now we're gonna go into a quick little like rapid fire questions at you, which I feel like you're gonna knock them out of the park. But
Sure.
all right. So you just had a great conversation with somebody at a networking event, but then you forgot their name. They're not wearing a name badge. What do you do?
Admit it. Be like, oh my
Okay.
gosh, I am so sorry. Like I was so excited to talk to you. Totally breezed over your name. Can you remind me what it is again?
Perfect.
love it. You are stuck in an awkward elevator ride with a CEO. What is your go-to opener?
Lord willing, I know something about their destination. Like, right? Like that's kind of first. But my favorite question to always ask is, what is your favorite thing about your job, or what is your favorite thing about your destination?
I love that.
Opens a lot of doors, those two conversation starters.
Totally. I feel like we're so lucky too that we work with destinations. So it's like, okay, I've heard of, St. Pete. Sorry, I'm just throwing my
Yeah.
hometown there. But like I've heard of that. Like I can, make a comment about the beaches or the hurricanes or whatever. Whereas like if you work in another industry and it's like some random tech company that you have no
Yeah.
idea, you're like, oh, crap, what do I say?
I still don't know what fintech is, so yeah,
Yeah. You admire someone's career path and you want to ask them for mentorship, but you've never spoken to them before. So how would you reach out?
Flattery is helpful. I would just be very honest with them. Be like, hey, this is what I've seen you do. This is what I want to learn. This is who I want to become. Do you have some time to connect? I've done this before. I do this a lot, and I think it's important that in general we all have the confidence to do that. So flatter them with what you actually genuinely enjoy about the career. Be honest and genuine. I think that's important. And understand, like they're most of the time they're happy to share with you.
Would you say like a LinkedIn message, an email? Is there one you prefer over the other if you're not face to face with them?
Yeah, I would probably do an email. That's what I've done in the past. Yeah.
So you have been in your career role for a while, or this person in our scenario.
Sure.
you are ready for more responsibility, but you haven't seen that opportunity come forward yet. Your boss hasn't brought it up. How do you start that conversation?
So I would not wait for your annual review. I think what's a lot of times we kind of see the annual or the quarterly review as a way to open that conversation. But what I would do is I would call a meeting to show you have the confidence in validating your worth. And I'd let them know, look, this is where I want to go. This is how I believe I can provide value. What tactics can I take over or assume to actually help me get here? I think that's really important. But always have, SMART goals, specific, measurable, time bound, all that. Like always make sure that they're attached to SMART goals that you can achieve over time.
I love that. What if there's like responsibilities you want to take over, but there's not a job role or determined role that has those, responsibilities yet? Like if you're like, I don't
Oh,
want to be here, but this is where I want to be over here, there's not a role for that.
yeah, that's okay. Start seeing how you can absorb those into your current role. Because again, you want to learn as much as you can through the career development process. So even if you don't get that title or the pay raise, a lot of times people see that as a burden, but look at it more as like an opportunity to upskill as opposed to a burden. Because I'll tell you, when I went to work at Carvertise from the TDA, what I started with at Discover Jackson County, my job description was very different than the time I left.
One thing too, and that was the end of the questions, but I
Sure.
remembered what I was gonna say earlier, is that this is just a simple like takeaway, and a lot of people probably know this already, but Kara Frank, who works with us on our marketing team, she gave me this advice, and she just said, because I was telling her like I just got a new boss, like I don't really know them that well, like how can I make the most out of this situation? And she was like, just keep record of anytime anyone says something, like even if it's as simple as like, great job, like just
Hmm.
if it's an email, just put it in a book, say like date it, who said it, and just keep a running list of that. And then, you have something to at least like have a starting point with to show, here's my relationship with these people and why it matters. And, if I need to advocate to, go to a conference or to go meet with a client, then it's right there to say, like, here's why it's important because I have this relationship with these people and I need to, upkeep that, or I need to grow in this area, I need to grow this relationship. So
Absolutely.
just like really simple. And when I used to manage a team as well in my previous role, and I would keep something similar for them to then use at their end of the year reviews, where if like somebody reached out to me as their boss to say like this person did a great job, I would obviously let them know, but then put it in that book too, just to kind of help remind them like, you are doing well and help encourage them to want to be motivated to keep growing and doing what they're doing.
Well, do you have any last pieces of advice for our listeners today before we get into our last game?
It sounds a little weird coming from me because I went from being a server to a vice president in like 7 years. But keep in mind that like the career development and growth is a marathon, not a sprint.
Mhm.
So again, be an entrepreneur, take charge of your career. You happen to it, don't let it happen to you.
Mhm.
And understand that like no's aren't always no's. Sometimes no's are not right now. And one of the things I wish I would have learned earlier too is not to take things so personally. Like, man, that got me into some trouble a couple of times. Like understand, there is a personal aspect to business. Like Michael Scott says, business is the most personal thing there is. I do actually love that quote. But at the same time, like, you are not necessarily your performance, and you can, just remove yourself from that and you can make your performance better over time.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice because I do like sometimes I'm just like, oh, my career growth is because I just, got lucky and I was in the right place at the right time, or, just happened to be able to get to where I am. But that's, it's not necessarily true. Like some people don't know how to take advantage of what's in front of them.
Right.
I have definitely been lucky that I've had great leadership and great relationships with these mentors in my career that have helped me and supported me, or at least kind of gave me little pushes where I needed.
Hmm.
Um, but that's also because I go and talk to them completely open and honest. Like I am never gonna shy away from telling some like my leadership how I feel about something because I want things to be better for myself or for whoever it is in that moment. And I think some people get nervous to be honest and to
Hmm.
have those relationships with leadership. So yeah, I think that would be my bit of advice is just be authentic.
Similar to Kaylee, when I was interviewing for this role, it was the role I've always wanted since I started at Simpleview. And when I went into not even the first interview, kind of like a pre-screening with Jason Swick at the time,
Hmm.
he was like, "I'm going to be honest with you. You're still new in your career. We're looking for someone with, more tenure experience. This is, what we're looking for. Feel free to apply, but we're just letting you know it's probably not going to be the right fit." So I took that as a challenge and I was like, I know I can do this because I want it so bad. And I've taken all these courses outside of, working hours to, be a good fit. So I came to the interview with a mock campaign brief based on a situation that, I knew we were trying to win this business at the time. So I came with it was 3 pages of what I would do and how I would set this up. And every interview, I, came with something to show that even though I might not have this much experience, on paper, here's, how much work I'm putting in and how I'm going to prove myself. But then now, that I'm in the role, I've been doing it for 2 years now. I'll still go to Kaylee sometimes and have that imposter syndrome. And I think that's something we're all going to experience throughout our career. And I think, we do I take things very personally because these are my clients. I want them to have the best experience. So I think sometimes it's hard to separate that, but looking back and, should you prove the value to other people, so prove it to yourself as well.
Awesome. All right. So to close us out, we ask all of our Layover Live guests this question. So we are hosting a potluck with all of our guests on the Layover Live. So everybody has to bring a dish from their hometown, or if they're at a DMO, from their destination. So Caleb, what would you bring from North Carolina?
I know Vimmel said it, but I'm gonna and I know I can't remember who else was on there, but she also said this. But I would also take barbecue and craft beer because I live in a town where we have 6 breweries downtown, and we have one of the best barbecue restaurants. Shout out to Haywood Smokehouse in the country. So I would also me, Vimmel, and that other guest, Andrea. Thank you. We would all be bringing barbecue and craft beer.
May I ask you to add on something for us from North Carolina?
Like an actual thing, like a gift.
Can you bring the cheer wine?
I will bring the cheer wine. It's cheer wine legend. I mean, come on, it's one of a kind.
Perfect. It's my favorite, and we can't get it here, so.
Man, well, maybe you should move to North Carolina. I'm just saying. Come on up.
I'm not too far. I'm in Charleston, so.
Come on up.
I can't believe they don't sell it in South Carolina. That's crazy.
At least not here. Have you ever had it? You've had it, Kaylee?
Yeah, they sell it at Publix. They don't really have it at restaurants, but yeah, they definitely, you can buy it in a can. And I've had it when I've traveled to North Carolina. So
I love it. It all goes back to Publix. Shout out to Publix.
I know.
Yes.
Started and ended on a Publix note.
That's it.
Well, that would be my potluck dish. I don't know if I've ever said this on the podcast, but because I'm from Tampa, so I would bring Cuban sandwiches.
Oh yeah.
But from Publix. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Caleb. This was really fun, really great conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And also, too, if folks want to find me, I'm on LinkedIn, Caleb Sullivan. I work for Paradise Advertising, so it's paradiseadv.com. And I also have a little podcast called Give Me Some Good News. So if you guys ever want to hear this sweet Southern voice talking about tourism stuff, you can come over there. It's on Spotify.
Well, that was one of my favorite episodes we've recorded thus far. I feel like I walked away with a ton of information, a ton of advice. I loved, what he was saying about, your career doesn't happen to you, you happen to your career. And I think a lot of what we talked about today is applicable to anyone in any industry. So I feel, inspired for the week and, ready to plan my 2026. What about you, Kaylee?
Yeah, I know I've been thinking for the past couple of weeks about what are my 2026 goals, not just within, my career, within my actual job, but what are my career goals for myself? So this was really helpful for me to start thinking a little bit deeper on things that I can do. And, I know one thing that I'm really looking forward to for 2026 is just seeing how we grow in this podcast. I don't think that I'm the best public speaker. I can just get a little rambly, and I definitely use a lot of filler words. So this podcast is such a great opportunity for me to learn and grow. And also this is just something I've never really done before. So I can't wait for like a year from now to rewatch this episode versus an episode that comes out next year and see how different it is and how much we've grown in just doing this.
Yeah, I agree. I noticed in the first episode how many times I said so I think I'm slowly getting better at that. But would you say that this has, already given you a little bit more confidence in your career and your capabilities?
I definitely think so. And I definitely think it gives us it's helping us establish our names and brands too on how we really want to present ourselves to the industry so that when we do go to conferences and meet people, like hopefully they can see, oh, you guys are the Layover Live, or I've seen you, I've heard your voice. So I definitely think so. And, if there's anybody listening who wants to grow their career and they think coming on the podcast would be a great way to do that, we would love to host anybody who's interested in doing that. And, something that Caleb mentioned he's passionate about, and I have something that we both said when we were starting this podcast was we want to be able to connect to younger people to influence them to come into the industry and consider it as a career option. So if you are starting out in your career and you found this podcast, we would love to connect with you as well.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and make sure to keep up on all things Layover Live.
Yeah, and also if you want to share your 2026 goals with us, drop them in the comments or email us. We would love to hear them and help keep each other accountable.